Good morning, everybody. Another day. Um, we got a couple of housekeeping things to take care of first. I think yesterday's podcast might have confused some. So I want to get some clarification going on the events of the show yesterday, and for people to understand a certain level of things. Because what I don't want is misunderstanding about what actually took place. One, with me internally, spiritually, and all that stuff, and what I was saying. So I want to make sure people clearly understand what's happening. So the topic yesterday was traversing the space between to get to the deeper waters above. And part of that was the trusting factor. And I want to make something abundantly clear that what happened to me yesterday was a check from God about my trust level. Um, Now, I do trust Him, but I found myself doing things that were antithetical to trust, trying to accomplish things through my own means and not fully relying on what He was wanting to do. And part of my method was to try and do something more than what um, I was directly told. And what I was directly told flew in the face of my trust level. And in the middle of me talking to you guys and asking about that voice, how do you hear him talking? There was that voice, and it said to me, "You ain't trusting me, and I never asked you to do anything extra. I set you on this path to do this, do it." And so, as soon as I acknowledged that I was trying to step out of my lane into his lane and step back into my lane, he showed me why he was trustworthy. And when I tell you he showed me why he is trustworthy, he showed me directly why he's trustworthy. And you may have seen it take place live on screen yesterday. Because when he checked me, it hit home, like really hit home, deep. Um, some people took it to me being broken because I was so stubborn and all this nonsense. That has nothing to do with it, like at all. None whatsoever. This was a reminder by him that his faithfulness and his trustworthiness is in the minute and in the large. And so it was a really good thing for me to hear from him on that. And he showed me too that it was about enough, not more, enough. And he is the God of enough. More than enough, but he's enough. So it was really good. So I wanted to clarify it wasn't me being rebuked by him. It was an assurance in the form of a parental um, attitude adjustment. Oh, man. Yeah, it was good. It was really good to experience. I'm not going to lie. Really good. So it was not a check in the negative, it was a check in the positive. It was a check in the positive. And it's appropriate because of the topic today. Um, so we're going to get into Isaiah 53 real quick. And instead of me reading it, I'm going to do a little bit different this time. And have it read for me. So Isaiah 53. Here we go.
Isaiah 53. Who hath believed our report? And to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He hath no form, nor comeliness. And when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He is despised, and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he hath borne our griefs, and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed, and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he openeth not his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment. And who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people was he stricken. And he made his grave with the wicked, and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. He hath put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed. He shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. He shall see of the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied. By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he hath poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors. And he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors.
Now, I have listened and read that verse in that chapter for years. Years. But it's not until I've started to really give up self that passage made any sense to me. And when I say make sense, it didn't hold a whole lot of water. It was a lot of platitudes. It was religious talk. It was doctrinal, historical, prophet stuff, and it wasn't home. It was never home. And I don't know how many actually have made it home. But it has a whole different meaning to me today. And I wanted to break it out piece by piece. Not for what I know it means to everyone else. I'm going to break it down for what I've seen in reality in my life about this verse. Because a lot of it is, yes, it is prophetic about Jesus. But also a lot of it is still applicable today, right now. Right now. Like there's that verse 2, the end of verse 2. There's no beauty that we should desire him. Today is an entirely visual based society. Selfies, makeup, filters. It's all about how one looks and how one sees the other person as desirable. Looks are what attracts people. And there is none of that to go on when it comes to Jesus. In fact, you'll probably hear more people say, why? Why should I bother following? And it's just kind of crazy that this is said in Isaiah. He's despised and rejected of men. And if you look today, that's what they do. They have rejected him. A man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. You know, I've always often asked, but someone asked me the other day, what did Jesus do in the time frame from the 13-year-old kid to the adult man going about his ministry? What happened to him in between there? Where was he? What was he doing? The first reaction I say is that I was not told, so I don't care. If it were that consequential, it would have been written down somewhere for me to know. But as a person, inquiring minds, I would assume that he had to deal with all the stuff that a human had to deal with. Parents, puberty, work, growing. He was human. He was in a human form, and he had to deal with all those things that humans deal with because he had to. It was part and parcel of him growing to the sacrifice that he became. And you can kind of tell that by all the things that he went through. He bore griefs, carried sorrows. Some deemed him smitten by God. And then they jumped to the adult years. He was wounded for our transgressions and bruised for our iniquities. I don't know how many of you have seen The Passion. I'm not for all of the Mother Mary references, but there are certain scenes that are historically accurate in that film. One of the historically accurate portions of the film is the beating. And it is not for the faint of heart. It is not for me. It is not for the weak. Let me get this answered real quick. I don't know about wrong or right, but you have to get to the point where you say, well, that's you. Do you? You know what you have. You have to know what you have and be happy that you have it. And that they don't, you pray for them. That's it. And that's not that they stop doing it, but hey, they'll come to light. God, you got them. I got you. They have to walk this out for themselves. Understand that they have to walk out themselves. You can't allow them to be the linchpin for your sorrow when you have an entire person of joy in your back pocket and in your hands and in your being. Okay. But in that flogging scene, I I don't know that we've ever fully um, understood what that meant. Like we see it. If you've watched it and you've seen it happen and you watched that he got beaten and cat o' nine tails and okay. I don't know how many internalized that to realize that that should have been you. It should have been me. It should have been us. It was supposed to be. That level of vengeance is what we deserved. And I don't think many of us internalize that enough to gain an understanding of that event. I don't think we fully get it. Because if we did fully get it, there'd be many things that we would not have a problem giving up. Now, again, I am not saying that the person that they chose to depict is a true representation of Jesus. I don't care about the representation being white or black because I don't know what he looked like. I am speaking about the event. The fact that he was beaten beyond recognition tells you that it didn't matter whether he was white or black. He was covered red. He was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities, and the chastisement of our peace was upon him. And with his stripes we are healed. For every stroke he took onto his body, every drop, every skin tear, every piece of flesh that got ripped out, every opening that was left on his body, every sore, every bruise, was another piece of punishment that we were supposed to get. And all of us, like sheep, have gone astray. We each turned to our own way, and the Lord had laid on him the iniquity of us all. And I don't know for a fact, but I have a suspicion that many of us do not realize what had to take place spiritually, too. In that moment. Because in order for that to happen, there had to be a lifting of the protection. The protection that had covered him through his entire ministry was lifted in that beating. His body was allowed to go through all of the things that we should have gone through, and any protections that was on him beforehand was lifted. See, many of us don't like to think of it. We don't want to think about some of us are actually okay with just a beating. We're good with that. We can accept that there was a beating that took place. And we could walk with that, run with that, feel fine with that. What we don't want, though, is the knowledge that the protection over this perfect being was lifted for the purpose of our salvation. It's like taking a brand new white ceramic vase and you've kept it under lock and key for years. And inside of it is a key to free somebody. And you have to smash this vase to get to the key. You can't pour it out. The neck is too narrow. You have to break this beautiful, pristine, protected vase in order to get the key. And the owner of the vase is the one that has to break it. And that vase has significant meaning. But in order to save the person, you break the vase. Many of us don't understand that sacrifice yet. And because we don't understand that sacrifice yet, we put ourselves as more important in our own world than recognizing our fault. We don't want to recognize where we really are. He made his grave with the wicked and the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. That has always stressed me out. It pleased the Lord to bruise him. I could never get that. Like how? How could it please the Lord to bruise him? And then I figured it out. Now, this part is not opinion to me. This part that I'm going to say next is not an opinion, not what I feel. This part, I know. It pleased him to bruise him because he knew the end result. The end result was the removal of the hold Satan had on his creation. That was the very last bastion that the devil had to hide in. He didn't have anything else to hold against God. Nothing. The devil had nothing to hold against God but that one screw up. And it pleased God because that process removed the last hold Satan had on his creation. So that was indeed a pleasing deal. Very pleasing. That was the ultimate defeat in real time of every stranglehold the devil had on mankind. It was a beautiful moment happening. Because here's the reality of it, right? And this is part of why I think we need to understand that the devil is not, he might be cunning, but he's not smart. He is cunning, but not smart. Understand why I said that. If he were smart, he'd understand that he was playing right into the plan. He was playing into the plan. He was so happy to tempt Jesus, to drag Judas away. He was so stoked about the fact that he captured Jesus, about the fact that he had him on a flogging post. He was so stoked that he was walking with this pole on his back. He was so stoked about the fact that he was whipped, nailed, spears thrusting his. He was so stoked about all of that that he forgot one very important thing. He just gave up his last stronghold. He gave it up. He allowed God, he allowed him, he allowed God to be able to fully defeat him once and for all. To the point where you killed Jesus, right? Yeah, okay. You do realize what you did, though. You just made the final atonement that you set forth possible for mankind. Someone had asked me about C.S. Lewis. I have since blocked that person because they were dumb, and that I can't use a different word because that's what they were, stupid. Asked me about C.S. Lewis, whether he was a believer. C.S. Lewis was an atheist before he came to God. Real quick history lesson here. C.S. Lewis was a brilliant human being, smart, wise, 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 book smart, spiritually bankrupt, but book smart. And he did not believe in anything God. So when you know what he decided? Just like many smart people, decided to go to disprove God. He went about reading the Bible and did exactly what the book said to do. This was his not his problem, but this was his flaw. And I mean flaws from an atheist perspective. And if you've never read the book Mere Christianity, I suggest you read it. It's a really good read. Really good read. But he set out to disprove God. He failed. He failed to disprove him. And in fact, he came to a complete realization that he was all the way 100% wrong. All the way wrong. Um, if I can find this quote. Here we go. Now, this is one of the most, when I first heard this quote, it was very, 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 um, it was really good. So this is what the quote, right? He says, this is what people say. Okay, this is what people say. Let's see if I can get rid of this stupid thing here because I can't read without that. Okay. I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. This is the one thing we must not say, he says. A man who was merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about him being a great teacher. He has not left that option open to us. Now, the reason I'm mentioning C.S. Lewis is because he wrote a book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and that was the second in the series. The first was The Silver Chair. If you've never read the series, it's a great series. And I mean a great series. The movie doesn't nearly do it enough justice as the books do. But there is a scene where Aslan, the king of all, um, is dealing with the Ice Queen. Always winter, never summer, or always winter, never Christmas. And she says that Edward has done something egregious by her law and he must be put to death. Edward participated in eating something that he really wanted, Turkish delight, and she gave it to him. And she wanted him to bring his siblings because she knew that one of them had been um, chosen to do a certain thing. Like I said, you have to read the book. I'm not going to give it the full story away. So, in any case, it boils down to where now, because Edward betrayed the siblings, by right, the queen had rights to him. And she was going to kill Edward. So they decided that they needed to find a way to stop it. And Aslan is the one that is going to go to replace Edward. This is what she wanted. Give me the lion, and you can have Edward back. The queen shows up at the camp, tries to talk big and bold, and Aslan roars at her and shuts her up immediately. She goes into the camp, talks to Aslan in a tent. They both walk out. And she turns around as she's leaving and she says, I hope you remember our bargain. And he roars at her to the point where she sits down in her chariot and is shocked to the core. And he said, do not recite the deep magic to me. I was there when it was created. And that is the moment that Satan screwed up too. You see, for Satan, he thought he had it all. God in the flesh. I get to kill God in the flesh. The one thing I've been wanting to do my whole existence, I get to kill God in the flesh. That would be the crowning achievement of mine. First, I got his creation, and now I got him. He did not think long term, just like C.S. Lewis portrayed the Queen. Yeah, you killed, but you killed the innocent. And the rights wanted the blood of innocence, and it got it, hence fulfilling the hold you had. What you didn't bank on, Satan, was that the life that was there in Christ was the life that could bring back to life anything. This is why I say Satan might be cunning, but he's not smart. You are trying to put to death creator within creation, not realizing that the creator within creation can recreate created. I know it's a little confusing to hear. That's how dumb he is. This is how stupid Satan is. He might be cunning, but he's not clever. You may have put to death the body that you think you're trying to have dominion over, but the power that dwelled within that particular body is not conquerable. It has the power to create, to destroy both body and soul, and to bring to life anything it wants. Ask Ezekiel, he'll tell you. That's the power of Isaiah 53. Is that the devil gave the victory while thinking he won. And this is why us participating in his life, this is why us dying to self and living in his life is so vital. Because a lot of our walk, we want to think that, oh, I sin every day. You are giving in to the devil's plan because you're being just as dumb as the devil to think that somehow in Christ's life there is weakness, to think that in Christ's life there is failure, to think that somehow in Christ's life there is sin. You see how ridiculous it is? You are thinking just like Satan. You believe what the devil believes. You're a born again sinner. You believe what the devil believes. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. Jesus' death in the human world codified his living a perfect human life with the Spirit of God to show you that with the Spirit of God in you, what? Perfection is possible. But not because of you doing it. It is possible because of the Spirit, not you. And I don't want people thinking, oh, he said everybody, you can be perfect. It is a factual thing. It said so. The battle you have with the flesh has nothing, and I mean nothing, to do with the perfection of the life of Christ. Nothing. You being in the flesh has nothing to do with his perfect life. Zero. It doesn't affect it. It doesn't change it. It doesn't weaken it at all. Not a single being. And this includes the devil in heaven or hell, believes that mankind can be perfect. I want you to understand that. Mankind cannot be perfect. But God is. And he asks you to die to the person that cannot be perfect, to put on the person that is perfect, to live that life. The fleshly things will want the fleshly things, and that will not end until you end. He told you to put your mind on the other truth, which is what? His life is stronger. And that what the flesh wants, the flesh doesn't have to get. It just doesn't have to get it. Oh, I just can't seem to. You can't? This is okay. So I run my self defense classes, right? And I do this in my voice lessons as well. There are two things I will not tolerate in my class: your lack of attempting and using the word can't. I do not allow the word can't in my class. If you persist in using the word can't, you are kicked from the class, both vocal classes and self defense classes. I'm not going to teach someone who can't. I can hear not yet, almost there, and got it, but I don't do can't. We're not doing the can't. Can't is telling me that you will not. Can't is not that you couldn't, can't is that you will not. Because 100% of people that say can't never tried to see if they could. I don't do can't. And that's the excuse we use in our Christian walk. You have something that you keep doing. I can't seem to stop this, and I can't seem to stop that. I can't seem, I can't seem, I can't seem. And my answer to you is this: good. You can't. I'm glad you're seeing for once in your life that you can't. So why do you keep thinking that this has to be something you stop in order for God to work? If it's something that you can't stop, why are you hinging your bets on you stopping an activity before following God? You already said you can't. So let's play devil's advocate. You can't. You can't. Why do you keep persisting in trying to if you say you can't? And if it's an impossibility, why would you hinge that stopping before you follow God? The fact is, what you don't want to say is that you don't want to stop. You prefer your sin. Because if you know you can't, then you stop trying. And that is all he's asking you to do, is stop trying. And realize that you, in and of yourself, can't. But there's another life he's calling you to live that can. And since he's asked you to place your mind there, there is no can't in that life. There is zero can't in that life. Many of us don't want to live there, though, because you know why? We don't want to admit. What we don't want to admit is that we kind of like what we can't give up. We kind of like what we can't give up. So it's not can't, is I don't want to. And that's a good step, because now you're realizing you're the problem. You are the problem. Not God's inability to solve anything. You don't want to give it up. You prefer it. These nonsensical people that say, I sin every day because you want to. Just say you want to. You like doing it. Every day I sin. So you know it's coming and you do nothing to stop it because you want to. I can't help but sin. This is how I am. Now I'll be this way till I die because you like it. And what you're telling God is this: your life might be good, but it ain't that good. Your life might be perfect, but it ain't that perfect. Your life might be strong, but it ain't that strong. Go ahead and live your life then. Why are you calling yourself a Christian, though? Why call yourself a Christian? When he said his life is sufficient, when he said he is sufficient, when he said that he is enough, and you come back and say, well, not in this case, well, no, Layla, no. I yell all the time. I don't know what yelling has to do with. Now, remember, be angry, sin not. And everybody should understand what that means by now, but maybe I should cover that one day. What being angry and sinning not means. But when you hinge your bets on your activities and your doing and doing, and not his, doubt is probably one of the worst things you'll ever encounter. Doubt is one of the biggest things, especially doubt in the power of his blood. Did you know, Layla, that doubt that the power of Christ is enough will get you to hell faster than cussing? And that's just doubt. All that is just doubt. You're not even saying anything vile, you just doubt it. Did you know that's worse? You know that's a for sure that you won't get in that way? Unbelief is crazily worse than cussing, in case you didn't know. You could be a great person to never cuss, never get angry, and still not believe in Christ, and you're going to hell. So, I mean, come on. Just saying. I think I'll do that one tomorrow. Be angry and sin not, what it means. So, Isaiah 53 is a lot more impactful than people believe. It's not just about a prediction about his death and his burial and the reasons. It's a inside glimpse into the folly and the stupidity of Satan to think that somehow him going after Jesus was a smart idea. He played right into the plan. Satan's been playing into the plan for forever. But that was the end of the road for him. That was the end of the road for him. He just didn't realize it. And if he did realize it, that makes him twice as stupid. Twice as stupid. The next time you read it from the perspective of a new life and the relinquishing of your earthly life. Read it from that perspective. And I guarantee you, it will never be seen the same again. At all. So we will discuss the angry and sin not thing tomorrow. I do have a prayer request though. My sons are leaving today for Dubai. They are heading out there for 2 weeks. Their father, remember I'm a stepdad. Their pops is taking them there because he's from Africa, Nigeria to be exact. And he's taking them there with him. And they leave in about 15 minutes here to drive out to Seattle and then fly from there to DC, from DC to New York, and then from New York to South Africa. They're not really keen on going, but I want them to be able to connect with him and be in a relationship with their real father because it's needed. It's needed. He is trying, and I want them to try twice as hard. So they're doing it. So that's good. So just pray traveling mercies on that. Tomorrow we'll talk about anger and sinning. And again, whatever I said at the beginning of the show yesterday is no longer true. Okay, just so you know. Because by the end of the show, if you go back and watch it, by the end of the show, there was a complete conviction about what he's called me to do versus what I want to do because of fear, because of lack of trust. And I'm not going to distrust him anymore. Oh, definitely, Lewis. I definitely think he can be trusted. Yes. Because you know who else I trust more than him? God. I trust God more than I trust man. And whatever happens, and I mean this in all sincerity, whatever happens, it's by his direction. Whatever I pray in his name, if it's in his name, it's in his name, and release it. I trust God more. But I do see him wanting to be father, which is good, very good. And I'm going to make sure I do all I can to make that happen, because I'm not the father, I'm the dad right now. And that's, I fully understand that. I'm not trying to usurp his role whatsoever. I've been wanting for him to step up for a long time, and he's doing that, and that is commendable, and that's exactly where it should be. So I'm a facilitator at this point, which is good for him to be doing what he's doing. So just pray for traveling mercies for them. They need it so that they have patience. He's a different kind of cat. That their pops is a different guy, really different. So they have some adjustments to do. In either case, we'll talk tomorrow. If you have any emails that you want to send, the email address is Racher. Oh, I did get a book, a hymn book yesterday. So thank you. I wrote the name down. I came down here and I forgot. I'm going to take a picture of it, and I'm going to put your name in a community post and thank you publicly for it. It's ironically, it's the exact same type of hymn book I had at 7 years old. And I still remember song numbers from it. It was nostalgic on a whole different level. So thank you. Really, thank you from the depths of my heart. Thank you. It was such a great thing. So, yeah, thank you. So we'll catch up tomorrow. The mix is on tonight, not too strong. The mix is on tonight, but not too strong. Be sure to catch that. And we will vibe tomorrow. Wisdom calls to you from the streets. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die, rely on yourself.